So welcome everybody to Sunnybrook's roundtable. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Terry Brund and I'm the principal of Sunnybrook School.
So thank you very much, Ms. Brund. My name is Tanya Lowe and I am the Director of Admissions and VP at Sunnybrook School, and I'm going to be moderating this event. I'm going to introduce our wonderful parents who have offered their time to come and participate in this event. So we have an alumni parent, Megan Stevens, with us. We also have Keiko Karstoff, who is an alumni and also a current parent. So she has a son who has graduated, so she's kind of wearing both hats. And then we have Oksana Jaltova, who is a current family at Sunnybrook School. So those are our participants. And we will start with the questioning. So I will ask the parents the questions, they will give their response, and we'll move on. So I'm going to begin with our alumni parent. So this is for Megan. What did you appreciate most about the school during your time here? And how has your perspective on that changed now that you've had some distance from the school?
So I think one of the things that first drew us to Sunnybrook was what a small, warm, nurturing environment it was. And I still remember Miss Brun on that tour when it was for our oldest daughter, who was at the time going into SK, and seeing a place where the teachers knew every kid and where there was a genuine warmth associated with knowing those kids. And these kids would come out and talk about what was going on in the classroom. And the look on Miss Brun's face, the pride that she had in those students, made me feel like there's something right happening here. And then what I also, once our kids got there, and we've had 3 kids at Sunnybrook, we found that nurturing environment really balanced off a really demanding and academically rigorous and challenging curriculum. So the IB curriculum really helped kind of inspire my kids to develop a love of learning and build their confidence about being curious, academically driven kids, but in a nurturing way. So my eldest daughter started off being really quiet and really kind of shy in the classroom. And she is now the exact opposite of that. And by the time she left Sunnybrook, she had had the opportunity to really have her strengths nurtured and for her to develop the confidence to ask the questions, to speak up. And now she's like gone on to be a top 10 national public speaker and debater, and she's moved on to another IB school. And the skills and the base that she had from Sunnybrook has set her up for incredible success. And I see the same thing happening with our other 2 children as well.
Thank you. That's wonderful, Megan. All right, so to the next question, which a little bit similar, but what, to the best of your knowledge, most differentiates the school from others?
Well, and I thought these sounded similar, but to me, I think what makes Sunnybrook stand out, in addition to being a small, nurturing environment, is if you're interested in IB, Sunnybrook, they are the experts. They were the first in Ontario to have the PYP program. And they train the other teachers at the big schools about this, and they get it in a way that I think I didn't fully get, 12 years ago when our first kids got there. But they really do teach your kids to be curious, to do all the IB learner profile things, to be risk takers, to really push themselves to be balanced. And I also think, really importantly, to be reflective. And I was recently speaking with someone who does a lot of work with admissions officers at universities, who talked about those essays that kids have to write and have to like package themselves up in 250 words, 500 words. And what the admissions officer said really stood out were the kids who could reflect on their experiences and what got them there. And Sunnybrook starts that from the very first moment your kids get into the school. And I think that really, because they're experts in that, it really sets Sunnybrook apart.
Wonderful. All right. This next question is fun. If the school were to be represented as a single person, what would its personality be like in only 3 words, and why?
So I was thinking about this, and it's hard to sum it up in 3 words, but I think it would be well-rounded, which I'm treating as one hyphenated word, curious and resilient. And I'm going to emphasize resilient based on the last year and a half, in which it's been a really challenging time for so many people. Sunnybrook's a really small school with a small staff, and there's been a lot of, pivot has been the term that we've all used, but Sunnybrook has really shown itself to be incredibly resilient during the course of COVID, and being able to have the flexibility to keep the students engaged online and then back in the classroom and change settings, but still continuing to feel engaged. And so that's the one that I wanted to emphasize at the end, was resilient, but also that well-balanced and curious.
Thank you. All right, the next question, I'll let Megan begin, but then Keiko can also add afterwards. What one thing would you change about the school for the better if you had to choose something?
This is a really tough question because I think Sunnybrook, I don't think I would change much about the school, but I think what I would say is one of its strengths can sometimes be its weakness. So it is a small school. And what that means is you don't have big splashy facilities. You don't have the biggest gym. You don't have the biggest, manicured lawns with all the bells and whistles that come with some of the bigger schools. But I think you get a lot in exchange for that. So it does mean, your kids in the upper years will go out and do physical activities in other spaces. And I think that's kind of fun for them. But if you had more space, you could do more right there. And then the one other thing about being small is there's 1 class per year. And so sometimes if your kid doesn't fit well in that particular cohort, then that can be a struggle. And, that's just something you always hope for in any school, that your kid will end up in a fantastic setting. But that can be a challenge in a smaller school. It's harder to switch that up.
Keiko, do you have anything to add?
I echo Megan's sentiments exactly. I think when we were in the younger grades, we would talk to some of the upper grade parents, and they would say, our kids are just outgrowing the school. And you can tell that. And when we were in the younger grades, it was kind of hard to understand because our kids were great. They had the little playground in the backyard. However, as our son, started going into grade 5 and now grade 6, and they suddenly grew, you do see that they do outgrow the space. So the one thing I would change would be the space, but that's the one change that's really hard to do. But you do see that they do start to outgrow the space. However, as Megan said, we do so many things. For example, for the phys ed program, they do so many off-site activities. Like I think they used to do the rock climbing before COVID. There was a ski day. They did swimming before COVID. They go off-site to do tennis. They do curling. So it's not that the program is lacking, but if there was a little bit more space, it would be great for the kids to be able to run around. And also, as Megan said, if there was a bigger space, then there might be the opportunity for, say, another class for each grade, so that there's a mixing of cohorts should there be a student who doesn't fit into that one class, but might fit into the other one. So, but I echo Megan's sentiments.
Wonderful. All right. Megan, what would families find most surprising about the school?
So I think one of the gems about the school that you wouldn't necessarily know from the outside is the musical every year. So I don't think there's another school in the city that puts on a musical every single year, including during COVID, with people filming from various locations and merging it all together. But not just a musical where every kid in the school from grade 1 and up is involved. And the way in which the entire community comes together to support that, both Miss Lowe and Miss Brund being key parts of that, but the excitement that builds for those kids over time as they're, first starting out in grade 1 and maybe are somewhat like, oh, I'm a tree in the background and I'm singing and it's exciting, or maybe it's scary. But by the time they get into the upper years and they can audition for those big roles, and you see your kids kind of getting out of their shells and seeing your kids' classmates who you had no idea could perform in this way, it's an absolutely fantastic part of the school and really brings that sense of community out in a small school.
Wonderful. Keiko, is there anything you want to add to that question about families would find most surprising?
I think what people would find surprising, that even though we're a small school, there is this fullness and a richness to the programming that goes on at Sunnybrook School. And that would be across the board in terms of the PYP, or the primary years program in IB. The teachers make it so engaging for the children, everything is challenging and it's enriching and it's engaging. The teachers make it fun for them to learn. They find different ways to teach. And it's not just rote teaching or rote learning. It's very innovative. So that might not be apparent from looking at it from the outside of the school. And then we get to the specialist programs like French and music and phys ed. And for French, we're amazed because our children, having been at Sunnybrook School since they were in JK, they're conversational. They way surpass my husband and myself for conversations. And our French teacher has commented that they're really on the cusp of being fluent. And I think that's a great accomplishment. You're not going to find a lot of schools in the city where their children by the end of graduation are being able to converse in French. And for the musical, as Megan mentioned, musical is the highlight, I think, of the school year. Everybody gets involved from grades 1 through 6. Everybody has a part. It fosters that sense of community in the school. There is that buzz of excitement. And also our music teacher is a professional pianist. And that speaks volumes because he has that passion for music that he's teaching to the children and passing along. And he's also found very innovative ways to teach music, especially during these COVID times. So there was the drumming, and now there's the introduction of wind instruments, and he just makes it engaging for the children. And for phys ed, yes, we have limited space on our school grounds, but as I mentioned before, we make use of outside properties. So the tennis, the swimming, the curling, and there's really nothing lacking in our program at Sunnybrook School that isn't offered at other schools. We have it all. So I think that's something that people would find surprising, because we are a small school, but we have it all. And then some, I think.
Wonderful. All right, the final alumni question before we move on. So we'll start with Megan, and Keiko, you can add again. What advice would you give to students who are just entering the school?
I would say come in open-minded and embrace it all. Try it all. You might think that you are not into cross country and you don't want to run with your classmates through the Beltline and through Mount Pleasant, but try it. Try embracing the musical. You might think you don't know how to sing or you don't want to sing, but go for it and it will be fun. Learn how to dance with Miss Brund. Try it all and really lean into that inquiry driven pursuit of curiosity that comes out through the IB program. So really embrace it all.
Keiko, anything to add?
I would say the same thing. Just, it's such a friendly environment at Sunnybrook School. Don't be afraid, jump in, be a contributing member of the Sunnybrook Society, but take it all in, be involved, be a risk taker. I mean, that's one of the big IB profiles that we talk about at Sunnybrook School. But don't be timid, be a risk taker, try it, and you're going to love your time at Sunnybrook School.
All right, thank you. So we're going to move on. Oksana is going to start with this next question. So again, these are our current parents. So Oksana, why did you choose the school originally? In what ways is the school what you expected, and in what ways is it not? So kind of two parts to that question.
Well, originally I chose Sunnybrook because of the IB primary years program and the size. So my oldest child is a cautious, quite an introverted child. So the actual size of the school was perfect for him. And IB program is something that spoke to me, since IB program is a global outlook inquiry-based program. I'm Russian Canadian, so it spoke to me. I'm a marketing researcher, so inquiry-based program definitely spoke to me because it is based on how kids are taught to learn, how they're taught to use research ever since they're tiny JKers. So these two things that drew me to school were the main ones: IB program and the size. What I found to be actually what I expected is the inquiry-based teaching methodology, right? So it's not just separate subjects that are completely disconnected, but the whole process is connected by the unit of inquiry. And there are several of them during the year. So basically there's no geography, social science, history per se. It's actually one theme that teaches kids social science and geography and history within that theme. What it wasn't is separate subjects. I was brought up in a schooling system where you had 10 subjects that completely disconnected. And at Sunnybrook in the IB program, this is not the case.
Wonderful. Keiko, do you want to add anything to that? Why did you choose the school? What was different, or what did you not expect?
So when we were looking for a school for our son for JK, we were looking for several things. First of all, a place where it was nurturing. He came from this really family-oriented preschool. And when we saw Sunnybrook School, it was small, but we felt so good as soon as we stepped inside the door. We felt that it was warm. We felt that it was nurturing. So that was one of the things that we were looking for, and check the box. Then the academics. The IB program at Sunnybrook is really exceptional. And as Oksana's touched on, the interdisciplinary themes that go on from JK right through to grade 6. It's not geography, history, math, but everything is interdisciplinary. And I think that kind of reflects life. We don't just compartmentalize things in life, right? So I think this is reflective of what happens in the world. So we loved the fact that it was IB. And of course, our son at that point was very curious about everything and was always inquiring. So we thought this would be great for him. The other thing that we really liked about Sunnybrook School was not only was it IB, it was co-ed. And we thought at that point of a child's development, it was important to be with boys and girls together and learn to be with one another. So that was one of the contributing factors for us choosing Sunnybrook School as well. In terms of the expectations, I think Sunnybrook has really met our expectations and exceeded it. One of the things that we talked about in our admissions interview with the director of the school, she said that there was a high percentage of placement in first choice schools for grade 7. And the preparation that Sunnybrook School does to get these children prepared for the SSATs and for writing entrance exams was really exceptional. they really do care about where these children end up, and they really have their best interests in mind. And so our expectations were met. Our son was able to get into his first choice school. The other thing is the academics, really the amazing things that our children have been learning and have learned is phenomenal. We were looking at the PYP exhibition for grade 6, and we were wondering, how is it going to happen during COVID with not being able to present in person? But there were innovative ways to find ways to present through their websites, the research that they were doing. It just really exceeded all of our expectations. So in terms of what was not expected, I don't think there was any, really. We really love the school.
Right. Wonderful, Keiko. And I'm actually going to let Keiko, you're going to start the next question, and Oksana, you can follow up after. The next question is, what is the biggest impact that Sunnybrook has had on your child?
I think it goes back to the IB program and how the IB program has the IB learner profiles, which is, for example, being a risk taker, being an inquirer, being balanced, being reflective. And all of those things are taught not just within the subjects that are taught at school, but to be those things for the children. The children are given profile leaves and being recognized for certain profiles that they show. And we found that our children, as they have grown up through the IB program, that they look at the world through what my husband and I call the IB lens. So they apply things like, well, I'm being a risk taker for trying this, Mom. Or I'm going to be open-minded about that. Or let me just reflect on this. Am I being balanced? So they really do look at the world, not just at school, but for everything else. They really live the IB life. So we think that's the biggest impact. And the other one is the school motto is the will to learn, the courage to act, and the confidence to succeed. And the school really lives by that motto. They nurture the children so that they have that will and the desire to learn. The curriculum is so engaging that the kids want to learn. They're always curious. They're fostered to become inquirers. It's okay to be curious, ask the questions. The will to learn. And then the school gives them the courage to act. You can do it. I know you're not so great at, or scared to be on stage for the musical, but you can do it. You can do it. And the confidence to succeed. The school really gives the children the confidence to succeed. They're recognized for their accomplishments. They're always encouraged along the way. Even if there's challenges, they're always being encouraged because the school knows every single child and they know who they are, and they're nurtured to become learners, to have that courage to act and have that confidence to succeed. And the other thing is our children through the IB program have become global citizens and have started to develop that social conscience to know that they're not just one person in society, that they can contribute and actually make a difference in the world one day.
Wonderful. All right, Oksana, what do your children have to say about, or what was the biggest impact the school has had on your children?
Well, the biggest impact on my son is that he actually is in the process of goal setting, which is something that I know even adults sometimes are struggling with. But this 11-year-old kid has started reflecting, finding gaps, setting goals, and achieving them ever since he was small. So I think this is a skill where positively you reflect on your actions, you connect and you find the gaps and actually set a goal is a life it's a life-saving skill, I think. So I think this was the biggest impact for my son. And with that, he actually, and as an example, he started playing piano. So he said, you know what, I think I'd like to be more of a risk taker and take myself out of the comfort zone. So I'd like to set a goal to be more of a risk taker. And I'd like to start something completely new and unknown for me. I would like to start playing piano. So he plays piano with me, actually. I started as well. So we practice together. For my daughter, who is an SK, I think the biggest impact was her being behind on academics for now. Her confidence never suffered, right? So school being so dedicated and committed to her academic success, yet being so caring about how the teachers approach her success and how they help her out, her confidence in herself, her confidence in being a successful student never flatters. I think this is the biggest impact for my daughter.
Thank you. All right, so Oksana, I'm going to begin the next question with you. What do your children have to say about Sunnybrook?
My son says, "It's fine, Mom," right? So that's it. That's all he says. To get information from my son is like pulling teeth. It's very hard. So what I gather, what he says about school, it's fine. But what I can tell you is that what he doesn't say. Okay. Neither my son nor my daughter ever did not want to go to school. They never had anxiety about going back to school. They were never scared, or they never had a tummy ache about school, right? So that means that they feel very safe at school, right? That says so. I think they're also encouraged at school. I can tell because they don't have those moments of, oh, I can't do that. Not feeling confident about themselves. And yet my son especially is challenged by the coursework right now because he's in grade 5, because he does have assignments, he does have research work that he has to do. So I think what they're not telling me, but I can see, is that they are safe at school, they are encouraged, and they're challenged. What my daughter says to me, I love school, right? She loves her friends and she loves her favorite teachers.
Thank you, Oksana. All right, Keiko, what would your children say about Sunnybrook?
So I did ask them what their opinion was. And again, I've kind of gleaned what they were thinking before as well. But both of them piped up and said, love it. Those were their words. And they love the teachers at Sunnybrook School. So my son has been there for 8 years, had all 8 teachers, some of them twice. And he's loved every single teacher. My daughter's going into grade 4. She's loved every single teacher that she's had. Their comments about the teachers are that they're really friendly, they're great, and they're approachable. So should there be a question that they had or they needed help on something, they're always there for them. And I think that speaks volumes to the nurturing, caring nature of Sunnybrook School, which they love. And they love the leadership team, the principal and the vice principals. They find that they're not intimidating at all, because usually you hear vice principal or principal and they're, a little bit intimidated, but not in the case of Sunnybrook School. They know that they're approachable, they're friendly, and that they care about them. So they love the leadership team. They also love the fact that it is a small school, so everybody knows each other, right from JK to grade 6. And the JK kids aren't afraid to say hello to the big grade 6 kids. And the grade 6 kids will say hello to the JK kids. So they love that sense of community And they love that everybody is friendly and they have pride in their school. So that's
right.
what they would say.
Thank you, Keiko. All right, so we're going actually to a question that was asked to our alumni parents is also going to be asked to our current parents. So Keiko, to you first. If the school were to be represented as a single person, what would its personality be like in only 3 words, and why?
So this was a hard one. There's so many ways to describe Sunnybrook School, but the 3 that I came up with are energetic, caring, and innovative or progressive. And I chose energetic because the school is really full of life. I've had so many opportunities to be in the school during volunteer times, and you can hear the joy and the happiness in the children in their classrooms. So it's not one of these schools where the teacher's up at the front and teaching and everything's quiet from the kids. There's a lot of collaboration going on. There's a lot of comments and ideas being thrown around. There's a real buzz of energy in the school. I would say caring because everybody does care for each other. The teachers care for the students, the leadership team cares for all the children. The kids care for each other. It's not like there's people being left behind. It's a small community and there's a lot of caring going on. And I say innovative or progressive because of the way some of these subjects are taught. And the school has the one-on-one iPad program. So every child gets an iPad with all the apps that are necessary to do their learning. And one of the progressive teaching tools that we found this year for grade 6 was the French teacher introduced using Roblox. The kids are very much into video games, and in a way to teach French vocabulary in a fun way, she introduced Roblox, and the children would have to use French vocabulary throughout the game, but that made it engaging for the children. So the teachers do think outside the box in the ways they teach. So it's not just strict from the textbook. They find very innovative and engaging ways to teach children.
All right, thank you. Oksana, 3 words.
I would say caring, dedicated, and inclusive. Definitely. Caring, absolutely. So Keiko, I guess this is totally right, because I think everybody cares, right? It's not indifferent. I never met a single teacher or staff at Sunnybrook that didn't care about the children and their success. Never. So it's definitely that safe and caring environment that I can attest to. Dedicated. Again, everybody is dedicated and committed to raising a child to his best potential, right? To developing a child to be a curious, independent learner. Everybody is dedicated to the child's success. And inclusive, because whether it's a cautious, introverted child or extroverted, flamboyant kid, it doesn't matter. Everybody is welcome. Everybody will find place in Sunnybrook community. So Sunnybrook community does not prefer one type of personality of a kid over another. Everybody is welcome. Everybody is included.
All right, thank you, Oksana. All right, we're now getting to our final question for our current families. So we'll begin with Oksana, and Keiko can add. So the final question is, how would you describe the values of the school and the values of the families in the school community?
I think the values are aligned, right? So, and that's why you see kids staying in Sunnybrook from JK all the way to grade 6. There's so many families that go through this journey all the way with Sunnybrook, right? I think both parents and school, they want to develop a child into curious, independent, encouraged learner. So that's what I can tell you, that basically it's definitely aligned, the values of the parents and the school and what the expectations that parents have of school and of their children.
Thank you. Keiko, how would you describe the values of the school and the families and the school community?
Well, I think the school really values each individual child. And I think that goes back to what Oksana was mentioning, that even if it was an introvert child versus an extrovert child, every child is treated equally. They're recognized for their strengths, things that they need to develop, but each child is valued for what they're able to contribute. There's that inclusivity, as Oksana mentioned as well. There is no one mold. Every child is valued and they're recognized for their accomplishments. They're recognized for their progress. Every child is valued. And I think that's very important. They're not a number at a school. Every child matters and every child is cared for. And that's a great value to have for the school. The other thing is, I think the school really fosters and values a strong community, because without having a cohesive, strong community of the school, sometimes it doesn't work. So they value having a strong community where the parents get along, they know who each other are, they feel comfortable going to the leadership team, going to the teachers. There's a strong sense of community. And I think the school is really driven, again, by the IB program and the IB profiles, because it guides who these children are to become. Are they going to be inquirers? Are they going to be knowledgeable? Are they going to be risk takers? Are they going to be balanced? Are they going to be caring? So I think all these IB profiles really guide the values of who these children are at the school, and it sets the tone for the school. And in terms of the parents, I think we're all there because of the wonderful community that Sunnybrook is, and for its academic excellence, and for the respect that the teachers and the leadership team have for the children, and also for the families to have respect for each other. It's that strong sense of community.
Well, thank you. That's a wonderful way to end. And that does bring us to the conclusion of the roundtable. Want to extend a huge thank you to Megan and Oksana and Keiko. Thank you all for taking the time out of your day to just share your thoughts about Sunnybrook and being so reflective and just taking the time to do that for us. So thank you very much, all of you. Have a wonderful rest of the day. And I will be signing us off.